What would you do if your family not only left you out of a vacation, but used your home, your money, and your name, and then blamed you for causing drama when you finally said no? Imagine finding out through a photo, not a phone call. And now imagine what happens when you take everything they borrowed and quietly take it back. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll see how one woman flipped the narrative from rejection to radical peace, and how her silence made the loudest impact. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about what happens when the person holding everything together finally lets go. If you've ever been the one who plans the holidays, pays the bills, and still ends up the outsider, this story will hit home. The twist? It starts with a pan of mac and cheese, not just any mac and cheese. Her sister's favorite. Brittany Wells, 39, senior project manager in sustainable housing, stood in her warm kitchen in Minneapolis, holding the glass dish fresh from the oven. Her home buzzed with noise. Ski bags being zipped, granola bars stuffed into backpacks, people arguing playfully over charger cords. It looked like the start of a winter family trip. Except it wasn't hers. It was happening in her house, but she hadn't been invited. She watched her sister Jenna zip up a ski jacket without looking up. "You don't even like skiing," Jenna said. "That's why we didn't invite you." Just like that, it was as if Brittany was the difficult one to even wonder about. No invitation, no heads up, not a text. Brittany blinked, still holding the dish. Jenna and her husband Nate spent holidays in this house for years. Brittany had paid for their emergencies without being asked. She'd covered Jenna's defaulted loan in 2020 and Nate's ER bills from his amateur hockey injury. She even once delayed signing a 7-figure housing deal to take their mother Evelyn to a cardiology appointment. No one remembered, but Brittany did. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" she asked. Jenna's eyes rolled. "You make everything about you. We just wanted peace." Peace. Brittany looked around the room. Her walls, her groceries, her heating bill. Her SUV was parked in the driveway, the one she co-signed for Nate because his credit was shot, but sure. She was the disruption. Brittany didn't argue. She didn't cry. She simply stepped aside, let them walk out, ski poles tapping down the porch steps, watched the SUV drive off. Then she locked the door, revoked every smart key from their phones, reset every access code, and shut down every password. That evening her phone rang. It was Evelyn, her voice already raised. "Did you seriously lock us out? Are you crazy?" Brittany said nothing. Not out of pettiness, out of clarity. For once, she wasn't asking to belong. They called her selfish. So be it. Her name is Brittany Wells, and for nearly 2 decades, she believed love meant giving more than she had of her time, money, and energy. She held the family holidays together, not because anyone asked her to, but because no one else would. She bought the candles, she mailed the invites, she even paid the mortgage on the family home. Technically, the house still belonged to Evelyn, but Brittany had been covering it quietly for the past 6 years. No fanfare, just quiet responsibility. Her second property, a sleek Airbnb in the North Loop, was her sanctuary. Smart locks, clean lines, floor-to-ceiling windows. She had bought it for herself after her last promotion. She opened it up to her family every New Year, letting them celebrate even if she couldn't make the trip. She texted the group on December 26th, "Hey, does anyone want to use Airbnb for New Year's? Let me know, I'll leave the key." Evelyn responded within 5 minutes, "No worries, sweetheart, we're just staying in this year, taking it easy." That was it. No one else responded. Not Jenna, not Nate, nothing. It was odd, but Brittany brushed it off. She was buried in a $14 million 0-cents housing grant proposal deadline. No time to worry. Still, she decorated her place, hung paper lanterns on the balcony. I baked the cinnamon cookies, but no one ever finished. Wrapped a small basket for her mom. Ritual. Habit. hope. Then came the photo. On December 29, Brittany was scrolling Slack updates when she accidentally opened a blurry image from a coworker taken at a ski lodge. She almost closed it, until she recognized Jenna's laugh. There she was, cheeks flushed, hand in Nate's. Behind them, Evelyn in her olive green coat. And overhead, a giant banner. Welcome, Wells Family Big Sky Ski Resort. Brittany stared. Not because she didn't believe it, but because she did. She scrolled back to Evelyn's message. We're just staying in. They had lied, all of them. Planned the trip, booked the resort, flown out, smiled for photos under her last name, and said nothing. Brittany didn't scream. She didn't call. She stood up, walked to her living room, looked at the glowing tree lights, and exhaled. She picked up her phone and texted Jenna, "Where are you? Read." No reply. She sent a photo of her cranberry tart, no caption. No reaction. The silence was louder than any fight. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hi, this is Leona from Fremont Lofts. Just confirming, did you authorize guests at your Airbnb this week?" Brittany's chest tightened. "No." "Okay, just that we've had a few noise complaints, loud music, smell of substances." The guests said they were your sister's friends. Brittany hung up, calm, methodical. She opened the app connected to her home security cameras. And there it was, her living room pulsing with strobe lights. Jenna, dancing. Nate, vape in hand, strangers laughing. Her table was covered in pizza boxes, wine glasses, and designer bags. She checked the front door camera. A package had arrived, addressed to Jenna Wells, Apartment A, her property, her name, her stolen identity. And they had done it without shame. What Brittany did next wasn't loud, it wasn't vengeful, but it shook everything, and everyone who thought she'd stay quiet forever. Brittany didn't call them. She didn't send threats or demands. She didn't even tell them to leave. She just acted, quietly, precisely. She opened the security control panel for her Airbnb unit and revoked every digital key one by one. Jenna, removed. Nate, removed. Lock codes reset. Wi-Fi shut down. Thermostat frozen. Every inch of the space was reclaimed. The music stopped, the lights flickered, her phone buzzed with confused messages. Brittany ignored them all. Instead, she walked into her kitchen, turned on her espresso machine, and pulled out a manila folder labeled Family Expenses. Inside, years of receipts, emails, Venmo screenshots, $1,835, 0 cents for Jenna's community college balance, $6,700, 0 cents for Nate's orthopedic surgery, mortgage transfers, car lease documents, one for a 2022 Chevy Traverse, listed under her credit but used exclusively by Nate. At the time, he said he needed it to job hunt. Brittany had made a spreadsheet once. She updated it now. Total support extended to family, $62,491.38. Total repaid, $0, 0 cents. Her fingers were steady, no shaking, no anger, just facts, just math. She opened her email, searched, Alex Turner, her legal contact for the housing development project. Subject line, urgent, personal legal matter, she wrote clearly. A formal cease and desist against unauthorized occupants at her Airbnb. Request for itemized documentation of all financial transfers to family. Preemptive protection of property rights. Attached are PDF copies, screenshots, and photos. She also included something new. An email thread from an old iCloud backup she'd forgotten was linked to her mom's iPad. A draft Evelyn never sent. Let her work. She has money. She doesn't need this trip. I'm tired of Brittany making everything about her, Jenna replied. Thanks, Mom. Just once, I want to be the center. Brittany reread it 3 times. She didn't cry. She didn't clench her jaw. She just closed the tab and went back to her coffee. When people say silence is passive, they forget silence can also be intentional. She opened her old Instagram, a private account. 12 followers. No tags, no names, just aesthetics, city views, coffee mugs, winter skies. That day she posted something different, a quiet 34-second video. No sound, just slides. A picture of Evelyn receiving her birthday car gift, smiling wide. A video of Jenna hugging Brittany in 2019, whispering, "You're the only reason I got through this year." Then, the photo from Big Sky. Underneath it is a screenshot of Evelyn's email. She won't even notice. Last slide, her tart from 2 days ago. Caption, "I'm just taking back the umbrella I held open for too long." No names, no blame, just truth. Within hours, the video was reposted, then reshared. Then it is stitched into reactions. People recognize the emotion without being told the full story. This is what invisible labor looks like. This is what happens when the giver stops giving. It wasn't loud. It was seismic. Jenna responded the only way she knew, on TikTok, crying in a hoodie. "I'm being made out to be a villain. Some people can't handle not being the center all the time." At first, a few comments offered sympathy, until others dug into her history. Old posts surfaced. "My angel sister made this trip happen. Literally couldn't survive without Brit." Suddenly the tears looked rehearsed. The storyline fell apart. Nate, meanwhile, applied for a new loan. It was flagged due to a pending property dispute at Brittany's Airbnb address. The lender opened an internal review. Threads online began connecting Nate's name to bounced checks, failed jobs, and unpaid rent. The digital footprint he thought was buried had come back. Brittany didn't respond, not to Jenna's video, not to Evelyn's phone calls. She had moved beyond confrontation. Her next post was a still frame, her security camera shot of the party. No caption, just the timestamp. 10:42 p.m., December 29th. It went viral again. A Denver local outlet ran a headline, "Woman shares Airbnb betrayal, goes viral for saying nothing." Evelyn finally called. Brittany answered this time. "You're humiliating us," Evelyn said. "You didn't have to make this public." Brittany replied, "I didn't." "You did that when you left me out." Click. That night, Brittany received a letter in her mailbox. 2 full pages of Evelyn's cursive. No apology, just, "I never thought it would go this far. I feel ashamed in front of the church committee." Brittany placed the letter in a file labeled non-essential correspondence. The following morning, she opened her legal folder. Alex had responded. "Cease and desist filed, ownership documentation secured, credit trail under audit, we have legal grounds to proceed." Brittany confirmed to do it. But just when they thought she was finished, Brittany made one final move. One that no one saw coming. One that would redefine what true freedom actually means. A few days later, Brittany sat quietly in a neighborhood cafe near Loring Park. She was reviewing reports for a new eco-housing initiative when a notification buzzed on her phone, a tag on her silent Instagram video. It had just hit 400,000 views. The caption from the user said, "This woman didn't name names, and yet we heard everything." That phrase echoed in her mind, not because it fed her ego, but because it proved something deeper. She hadn't needed to scream to be believed. She only needed to stop hiding. Still, she didn't interact with the post. She sipped her coffee, highlighted figures in her report, and quietly let the storm swirl on its own. It wasn't about going viral. It was about truth. That same evening, Jenna texted. Not an apology, just one line. "You seriously need therapy." Brittany reacted with a thumbs up, nothing more. That single emoji became the digital mic drop. Final, emotionless, untouchable. The group chat remained dead silent. No memes, no holiday plans, just empty blue bubbles and history. Meanwhile, Evelyn took to Facebook, a public status. Being a mother isn't easy, especially when one child insists on rewriting everything to play the victim. Someone commented, "Is that why you left her out of the ski trip?" The post was quietly deleted within the hour, but not before screenshots hit a Reddit thread titled, "When Family Stops Being Family." Brittany didn't post again. But the internet didn't need more content. The silence had become a mirror. Then came a message in her inbox from a podcast producer. "We run a show called Reshaped Roots. It's about family estrangement, boundary setting, and financial enmeshment. We'd love to hear your story, in your own words, on your terms." Brittany stared at the screen. She typed, "Maybe, but only if it's about healing, not spectacle." They agreed. The following week, something new arrived in her inbox. A burner email address. Subject line, "You don't know me, but I knew Jenna." It was from an ex-boyfriend of her sister's. "She used to call you her personal ATM. Said you were too controlling to keep a man. I believed her." "I'm sorry." Brittany didn't reply. She just forwarded the email to Alex with a simple note, "For the record, no response needed." Meanwhile, Nate attempted to register a new vehicle using Brittany's home address again. The alert triggered an automatic legal review. False residency claim, second offense. Local authorities opened a preliminary file. Brittany was no longer chasing consequences. They were arriving on their own. Later that week, her firm invited her to a conference meeting. Afterward, a young intern lingered. "You probably hear this a lot now, but thank you. Some of us needed someone like you to prove it's okay to walk away, even from family." Brittany gave a small nod. She didn't need grand gestures anymore. Recognition didn't have to be loud to be real. At night, Brittany stood in her North Loop apartment, the one no one else had keys to anymore, her sanctuary. She pulled out a single bottle of Cabernet, the one she had been saving for New Year's, poured one glass, no cheers, no music, just the hum of the heater and the weight of peace filling the room like a second blanket. And then she wrote the final letter, not to Jenna, not to Evelyn, to Women Forward, a nonprofit for women rebuilding after family-based financial trauma. She arranged the full donation transfer, the SUV. The remaining balance is on Jenna's credit card, and the Airbnb fully signed over. No drama, no grand announcement, just freedom, quiet, unstoppable. A legal injunction arrived in Jenna and Nate's inboxes 3 days later. No contact for 3 years. All financial ties were cut. Digital access was revoked permanently. They had 72 hours to acknowledge receipt. Jenna, predictably, responded with another TikTok. "My sister is destroying our lives. She's painting herself like some victim." But this time, no one believed it. Comments flooded in. "You used her like a bank and a babysitter. You only called her family when you needed rent." Jenna was deactivated within 24 hours. Nate tried to appeal the injunction. It was denied. Meanwhile, Brittany didn't gloat. She didn't broadcast. She just walked the snow-dusted trails of Theodore Wirth Park. Let her lungs fill with winter air. Let the old weight settle somewhere behind her. At home, she cleared the family gallery wall. Christmases, birthdays, group shots. Always smiling, always tired. Always her behind the camera. She didn't rip them down, she boxed them. Sealed the box, labeled it complete. Midweek, she recorded her segment for Reshaped Roots. No tears, no rage, just her voice. Steady, human. She spoke about love as labor, about giving so much that your silence becomes an expectation. "I wasn't selfish," she said. "I was just finally empty." When asked what forgiveness looked like, she paused, then replied, "Distance. Sometimes forgiveness is not letting them close enough to hurt you again." The episode aired quietly, then spread. Listeners wrote in. Women, men, siblings, parents, all whispering the same thing. "You said what I've been afraid to admit." And just before the month closed, Brittany received an envelope, no returned name, but familiar handwriting. Inside, a photo, the one from Big Sky, Jenna, Nate, Evelyn, all smiles. On the back, a post-it note. "This is your family. I'm no longer in it." Brittany stared at it. Then, she opened her filing cabinet, placed it under a tab she'd added last. Closure. But what happens when Brittany is finally asked to speak? On a stage, to strangers, with the world watching. The answer surprises even her. Before we continue, if you're still here and this story speaks to you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Every story like this deserves a voice, and your support helps us keep telling them. 1 week later, Brittany stood backstage at a conference center in downtown Minneapolis. The event was titled Boundaries and Belonging, and hosted by a coalition of women's advocacy groups, nonprofit leaders, and legal professionals. Originally, she'd declined the invitation, but something about the theme stuck with her. This wasn't a panel about revenge, it was about reclaiming. She had spent years believing that being quiet was a noble thing, that family harmony required silence. But now, standing behind the curtain, she realized silence can also be consent, and she wasn't giving it anymore. The moderator introduced her simply. Our next speaker is someone who redefined what self-respect looks like when it's challenged by the very people who raised us. Brittany stepped forward, notes in hand but never looked at them. Her voice was soft but unwavering. She told the story about the cookies, the locked doors, the party at the Airbnb, and the email she was never supposed to see. But mostly, she spoke about the years leading up to that moment. No one asks to become the giver. It happens because someone else won't, she said. She talked about the time she drove 3 hours to fix her mother's heating system in the middle of a blizzard, only to be called too sensitive when she asked why no one else helped. She described how she bought every birthday cake, planned every holiday meal, and managed every emergency fund. And when she stopped, they didn't ask if she was okay. They asked why she'd changed. Brittany looked up at the crowd. No tears, no dramatics, just stillness. You can't make people see your worth if their comfort depends on ignoring it. The room was silent. Not awkward silent, stilled. Women nodded, men in the back lowered their eyes. And in that quiet, Brittany knew she was being heard more deeply than she ever had been inside her own home. After the panel, people lined up to speak with her. A retired nurse thanked her. "I left my family at 59. You just helped me forgive myself for doing it too late." A college student said, "I'm about to move out of my aunt's house. She raised me, but I raised her kids." Brittany nodded to each one. She didn't have solutions, but she had presence, and sometimes presence is what starts healing. That night, she walked home through light snow. Her boots crunched against icy sidewalks. Her fingers were tucked into her coat pockets. She didn't check her phone until she was inside, warm, safe. There were no new messages from Evelyn or Jenna. It's not even a passive-aggressive social media post. And that silence, it felt right. She didn't miss them, not really. What she missed was the idea of them. The version she carried like a backpack filled with responsibility and hope. She set that backpack down for good. The next morning, she received one final notification, a civil court ruling. Jenna and Nate's appeal for a reduced financial penalty was denied. All ties, credit, property, digital, formally severed. A copy of the court's ruling would be sent to all associated institutions. Brittany read the statement and then closed the email. No celebration. Just exhale. Just the kind of closure that doesn't come with confetti, but with the sound of a door quietly clicking shut. Later that week, she walked to her local nursery and bought a potted pear tree. The employee smiled. "Bit chilly for planting." Brittany nodded. "I'm not planting it, just letting it root indoors for now." She placed it on her balcony, next to her coffee chair. She'd read once that pear trees can survive the harshest winters as long as they're not uprooted. It felt like a symbol, not of revenge, not of survival, but staying rooted even after everything around you changes. On Saturday, she hosted her first dinner on Airbnb since it had been reclaimed. Not for family, for herself and a few colleagues who had stood by her when everything was unraveling. They laughed over roasted carrots and ginger chicken, toasted with modest glasses of red wine. "Feels like a whole new place," someone said. Brittany smiled. "That's because it is." That evening, she posted one final image to her private Instagram. The dining table was softly lit, a pear tree silhouetted against the frosted glass. Caption: "You don't rebuild trust, you build something better." But there's one last moment Brittany didn't see coming, an invitation that would test whether she's truly ready to let go, or if one last conversation could change the ending. The final week of January brought something Brittany never expected. A cream-colored envelope, hand-dressed a letter, no return label. She nearly tossed it, thinking it was another invitation from a real estate networking event. But inside wasn't a brochure, it was an official request. The American Legal Wellness Forum, a national event hosted by the Department of Justice, was inviting Brittany to speak on a panel titled "Family, Finance, and the Fracture Line." The letter was clear. "Your story has sparked conversations we've been trying to ignite for years. We would be honored to give you the microphone." Brittany reread the letter twice. Then she set it down and stared out her kitchen window. The pear tree swayed slightly in the breeze. It wasn't about fame. It wasn't even about justice anymore. It was about recognition. Of the kind she never got from the people she gave everything to. She replied that evening, "I'll do it, but I won't perform. I'll tell the truth." And so she flew to D.C. in early March, stood under the soft lights of the auditorium, and once again spoke plainly. No embellishments, no theatrics. She told the audience what she'd learned the hard way, that family is not defined by shared walls or bloodlines. It's defined by shared respect. That peace isn't something you give to others by sacrificing yourself. It's something you protect by setting a line and not apologizing for it. As she stepped off stage, a woman in her 60s approached her in tears. "You just saved my daughter. She's where you were 2 years ago." Brittany reached out and took the woman's hand. "Then tell her she's not crazy, and she's not alone." That night, in her hotel room, Brittany opened her laptop and reread her original spreadsheet, the one that started this all. $62,491.38 in family debt, dozens of transactions. It no longer made her stomach twist. It didn't even make her angry. It felt like a chapter she had finally finished. She added one final note at the bottom: "Balance closed." When she returned home, there was one last thing she knew she had to do. She gathered all the old family photos from the storage bin, not to destroy them, but to archive them. She scanned each one into a hard drive labeled History, printed backups, stored them in a fire-safe box, and placed them at the very back of her closet, a place she wouldn't stumble into by accident. It wasn't about forgetting. It was about choosing when and how to remember. 3 months passed. Spring in Minneapolis finally softened the air. Brittany found herself at the farmer's market on a Saturday morning. She was picking up tulips when a familiar voice called her name. She turned and froze. It was Evelyn. Older, thinner, alone. They locked eyes. Evelyn approached slowly, holding a brown paper bag. "I saw your panel. I didn't know..." She paused, searching for the right words. Brittany stayed silent. "I won't ask for anything," Evelyn said. "I just wanted to say, you're right, we took, and I let them." Brittany didn't reply, not out of spite, out of self-respect. After a moment, Evelyn nodded. "Okay, that's all." She walked away. Brittany watched her go, then turned back to her tulips. She paid, walked home, and placed the flowers on her balcony next to the pear tree. As she sat beside the blooms, she opened her email one last time. A listener from the podcast had written her, My name is Elena. I'm 24. I left a toxic family situation last month because of you. I just wanted you to know. You were the permission I didn't know I needed." Brittany smiled. She replied, "You never needed permission, but I'm honored to have reminded you that your peace matters." Later that day, she made herself a quiet dinner, poured one glass of wine, turned on soft jazz. There were no phone calls from family, no guilt-tripping messages, just peace, full and unbothered. Before bed, she looked at the pear tree once more. A tiny bud had appeared on one of the branches. Resilient, persistent, beautiful, just like her. That night she dreamed, not of conflict or confrontation, but of stillness, of sitting at her own table, without apology, without performing, just existing in her own story, and for once, she did not need anyone else to validate that she belonged there. Brittany Wells, once the glue holding her dysfunctional family together, was quietly excluded from a ski trip and discovered her home had been used without her consent. She chose not to explode, but to reclaim. Through legal steps, clear boundaries, and unwavering self-respect, she transformed betrayal into clarity. Her story sparked a movement, helped others break cycles, and ultimately led to her own deep-rooted peace. If you were Brittany, what would you have done? Confronted your family and demanded apologies? Quietly cut them off just like Brittany and started over? Tell us in the comments. We'd love to hear your story too.